a playlist original.
Come to me. Come to me. Hear my call. Come to me. Professor, my dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us? Or from beyond?
He is coming.
He is coming.
He is coming to us.
He's coming.
Who is coming to you, my child? We are here encountering the vampire. Nosferatu.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the very first episode of Back to the Blockbuster in 2025. It's Gaius and Jackson coming at you again with a fantastic episode today. We're covering Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, which opened Christmas Day 2024. We've both seen it in theaters. We haven't discussed any details or our thoughts about it individually, so we are both hearing our first takes and opinions of the movie live here now, and I'm very excited to jump into this episode. Gaius, I think without further ado, before we get going, very happy to be jumping into a new year on the show with you. This will be the third year of which I've appeared on an episode, but really our second full year of going through this. Or no, we're going into our third year rather together, where we did 2023, 2024, and now it's 2025, and very excited to do it. Love that we're covering the year off with what was one of a movie from last year in our most anticipated list. So it's great to be discussing that today. But yes, I had to start off by saying thanks for another fantastic year on the show.
Yeah, and thanks to you as always for all you bring to it. This actually was your idea to cover this as an idea. And I know like may not be groundbreaking to other shows, but it's very rare that we get to cover like new movies because we're very busy and it's hard to like organize it. But like I think we've been really good like when we're both excited about the movie and we both happen to see it. We talk about it. I know that happened with like Civil War, like that's an example. Like if we happen to both like seen it on the weekend, like hey, we're gonna discuss it. So this was your idea. I'm stoked to be doing it. I'm glad it's even though we were in 2025, there is still a lot of lingering stuff in 2024 that will be in the first few episodes of the show because we're still dealing with like award season, which is like dealing with all the movies that were released last year. We have a one anniversary episode from 2020 that we were going to do from 2024 as well with Closer. So there is a lot of stuff that's going to be changing on the show, but it'll be normal to kind of hear a little traces of 2024 as we enter 2025. And I guess what was interesting too, like I love that we're covering this, and one of the first things I like thought about asking you before we like get into the plot and nitty gritty of it. This movie got really good reviews. I'm actually surprised that it. I mean, I guess there is like chances for it to get like technical noms award season, like as far as Oscars, because like the reception was so significant and it was pretty well received. I know like Lily Rose Depp, a lot of critics thought she gave like a career best performance, and I know she's like hasn't been around like a long time, but like this is a lot of people loved her work in this,
especially coming off the Idol the same year.
And honestly,
big
turnaround. From what I watched of it, because it's not good, but like it was like that show wasn't her fault. She was actually good on it. She really actually felt like a genuine pop star.
Drastically different reception from those two projects though in the same year, right?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that like it wasn't more in the conversation as far as like a contender as a film itself. And then like I've been trying to figure out, is it because maybe was it not screened enough for people who would be in, like, as far as like that kind of award season voting, like it, or maybe did they not even try to put it in that discussion? Like, I know, like, of course,
none of Eggers' movies really have been.
Right. And I know this is like it's a horror film, but this is like a prestige horror film. So like, it's not like it seemed like it would be something that, award season voters would maybe flock to, especially when the reviews were pretty, I mean, almost universally well received for the most part. I'm surprised that it wasn't a bigger part of that discussion, and I don't know if it's because it came out late, it came out during Christmas. Maybe they didn't even try to really kind of like put it in the faces of people who would like really be looking into that, voting for that kind of stuff. I didn't know if you felt that, or if you kind of were like, oh, like maybe it wasn't that kind of film, or like what you kind of thought about that in general. Like, are you surprised, or like did you think it had the potential to?
Well, truthfully, the only awards show, I mean, as we're recording, the Globes were tonight, and I truthfully didn't even really make the time to look at what was nominated for the Globe. So I don't know if Nosferatu kind of went under the radar, if it got noms for anything. I'm expecting, like you said, that this movie will get technical noms, maybe cinematography. I hope cinematography, maybe best adapted screenplay. I would like to see that. Certainly, makeup, editing, and I'm trying to think of some other technical, like a production design. I think it really, and costumes. I really think it has a shot at some of those. I would love to see it nominated. Truthfully, like I really think you could give Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård, like performance nominations. I don't know that the Academy will bite on that, but they are definitely deserving. And Robert Eggers' directing nom, like fantastically directed movie. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess back to that point I mentioned earlier, did it get nominated for anything significant at the Globes?
No, it didn't. And I didn't. And I think like I can only speculate why. It seems like they just like Focus Features release this. It seems like they just didn't put it in front of like people early enough, like people that would be determining that kind of thing, not just like not press, but like award season voters and all that. Like it wasn't really put out early enough, and I was really surprised once the early reviews started coming out, especially when they started praising, her performance in particular, but like the movie itself as being like some considered like one of the best of the year. And I was like, oh, like why? Like either Focus Features was like, hey, this is not. They won't pay attention to it, be like this because of what it is,
right?
But it's also, on the other hand, it's Focus Features, and they're known for releasing like prestige films. And even though this is a horror movie, it is very much
they knew what they had on their hands. I'm sure.
Right, this is a horror movie for grown-ups. This is not like for the kids. So like there was potential for it to, I think, to really be present. I mean, I know like other people might disagree who are listening, but like maybe in front of the right people, there was an avenue where Lily Rose Depp could probably sneak in there. I know that the best actress race is like it's very crowded. Like it's very like
it always will be.
Packed. It's packed right now, and like maybe there is like an avenue where maybe it could have, depending on how many Best Picture noms like the Oscars give out, like could sneak in there. It could have sneaked in there. I don't know, and it's still a possibility that it could. I mean, I think it helps. Like I know this is like a weird thing to say, and I think I brought this up to you. Like box office shouldn't really help a movie's chances of getting award season push, but when a movie does well, when the movie does well, it does. And this movie is making money right now. It's actually his highest grossing film to date, which I know that it's not that hard because like a lot of his movies haven't grossed a ton of money, but really within the week, first week, it quickly became his highest grossing film.
Highest opening, I believe too.
So like I say that to say that the Academy likes the narrative of like, hey, we got good reviews and it's successful, and that does raise his profile a bit. Maybe Academy voters who maybe weren't sent to press screenings or weren't sent screeners will check it out, and that's like a way to get it in. But that narrative always helps when a movie has good reviews, and also
undoubtedly
it makes the studio money. So like that, yeah.
before we get into much about our thoughts on it, I wanted to kind of just give some specs, I guess, on the movie for those that, oh, yes, for those maybe that are listening that haven't seen this latest iteration. This conversation will no doubt be spoiler riddled. So maybe consider listening if you haven't gone to see it. Absolutely go see this movie at theaters. I've seen it twice now on the big screen. Gaius, you've seen it at least once, presumably.
I saw it once. Yeah. I would love to see it again though. But
Great
yeah.
experience.
Also, this was a tough sell with some of my friends. I tried to get there, like, oh, I don't know. And
Really?
well, some of them are like, it looks like it could be all right, but it also looks boring. I'm like, man, this is wild. I'm like, I tell y'all to go see movies. Some of y'all to go see movies.
If
And
only we could go see everything together, because we would
I know.
definitely
And then
love
I
that. Yeah.
get back in my shell of disappointment. Like, am I the only one that like gets stoked for movies like this? Like, yeah. You know, you just basically have to be in like LA one time. Like, yeah, like there are certain, I mean, I think I know what, I think I've burned certain friends, like when it comes to certain movies where they're like I'll love it, and they'll be like, what the hell was that? I'm like, all right, fine.
I'm
Maybe it wasn't for
fortunate
me.
enough that I got
Yeah.
Cam, like my lifelong buddy. We both love cinema like equally, so we go see everything together. And then also, fortunately, like tonight, as of recording, I was able to drag my wonderful girlfriend to go see this with me, who at one
Nice.
point looked over at me and said, "What the fuck is going on?" She'll
Wow.
just kind of go with me to see anything because she knows I love the movies, and
Was
it's
that like
late night.
a
So
positive reaction, or was she just like not
um
into it?
not really. No, not that she wasn't into it, but just something happened on screen. I'm sure I'll make a mention of it later. Something just really disturbing happened on screen that she didn't see coming, and I don't think she liked it just
Yeah.
because of the nature of what happened. I know that's vague, but I'll get to it. But anyway, so you've been warned. There's spoilers coming. This is a brand new release. It opened Christmas Day 2024. As Gaius mentioned, it's been doing great for Robert Eggers. So this is the second remake that I know of the original Nosferatu from 1922. I know we've
Yeah.
talked about Werner Herzog's 1979 version on the show before, which I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
So this is Robert Eggers' take on it, something that he's been wanting to do for years. He did a production of this back when he was in high school because he was so
Yeah.
inspired by the original. But in any case, just a brief synopsis of the movie for those maybe that aren't familiar, or if you are, I guess, then this isn't necessary. But IMDb describes it as a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake, which is pretty brief, but not inaccurate. It is like a class. It is the Bram Stoker's Dracula story with some names and change and dates and locations changed, essentially. For those that
Yeah.
know, you know. But yeah, what was
Yeah.
your take on everything? If there's anything you want to
I
say before we get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's certain movies like you know, I think you kind of knew like I mean, I know we have been talking about this like last year, right? When we were like, this is gonna
Oh
like
yeah.
we couldn't wait until Christmas of 2024 when this was coming out. You
Yep.
know, when you know that you really want to see something and I think sometimes you know you're gonna be excited about it, it's gonna be good. And this was one of those where I was like, I didn't have any doubt that it wasn't gonna be good. So I was pretty excited.
Yes.
And I wasn't disappointed at all, like whatsoever. It, you know, I want to point out to you because I know we sometimes we talk about cinema scores on the show.
Yep.
It got a B- cinema score from opening day audiences. I think it's because
Really.
it's not for everyone. It's not really a mainstreamy kind of, even though it feels like his most mainstreamy movie as
More
far as
so
like
than The Witch and the Lighthouse, for sure.
yeah. As
Yeah, but
far as like,
still,
you know, I guess as
still
far
a
as like
little
its
niche.
accessibility, I guess, right? Like it seems like something like it when compared to like his other movies.
Yeah.
But I could tell that, you know, it's a period piece. I mean, basically, and like that's not gonna appeal to every like casual moviegoer.
Yeah.
So like when I saw the B minus, I was like, oh man, maybe it's not registering with people. But I think that sometimes the cinema score it can be a large pocket of like who is seeing it and like how they feel about it, and sometimes
Right.
it can be a smaller pocket of who that is, what that is. And since it is performing so well and is doing well, I think that was the case of it being like a smaller pocket of like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, like, you know,
Mhm.
it's a period piece. It's, you know, it's boring. It's segments, blah blah blah. And I've actually seen some people put that on their like X profiles and stuff. Like a lot of people that actually did press screenings for it mentioned that they thought it was beautiful and they liked the performances, but some did think that they thought it was boring in spots, and that, you know, I wish I would have pulled up what one woman said, but I think I can like paraphrase it where it was really pretty to look at, but they felt like there was not much there, and I don't understand that. I mean, like, everyone has their opinion on stuff.
Yeah.
I think even in the moments where you can technically say, "Oh, there's a lull here," it was so like that person said, beautiful to look at. That like it just
Yes.
like in the quieter moments, I was either you are enamored by how visually stunning it is. It's always interesting whether it's the visuals, whether it's like what's happening on screen as far as the characters are concerned. Like, there is a lot going on that I can't like. It just felt like it was constantly alive in like some kind of way.
Yes.
And again, this is not going to be. It's not a horror movie in the traditional sense. I didn't find it scary, but it's like but it's not that kind of movie. It's like this is almost like a kind of like gothic kind of horror film a bit,
Yeah.
like the style in which it's made. I mean, and yeah, this is like what most people say is like it felt like a horror movie for grown-ups, where it's just like it felt a little bit more sophisticated. And I don't mean that in a way to say like hoity-toity like snooty about it, but it is
Right.
really like it's more than like it's not, this isn't jump scares and stuff like that. It really is a really
Well,
yeah,
you're
like
right
adult
in
horror
that.
movie like that. Yeah.
I was surprised though, because there are definitely some edits, like some intentional jump scares in the editing in this movie, which I did not expect out of a Robert Eggers movie, because I can't think of any in his other two horror movies that he's done. And there
No.
were parts of this movie that I do feel was edited to come across as a more conventional horror movie, not in a way that it detracted. I'm not trying to like separate it as if like it couldn't be a conventional horror
Yeah.
movie, but you're right, it is very much, it's a period piece, gothic, and it's also like a remake of a classic beloved movie. So, and he's a guy that loves his history in movies, so automatically I think it separates itself from your typical like vampire flick. But I was
Yeah.
surprised that there are definitely some edits, some jump scares of like Nosferatu's face, and even Lily Rose Depp's face with like blood pouring out of it at one scene was
Yeah,
like
like it's just like
thrust on screen. I was like, holy shit.
yeah, it's more of like it's disturbing in certain ways where like I was like, oh, like I like you're not expecting to see that kind of stuff. Like that is like, if what I liked about it is like it's more disturbing and unsettling than like flat out frightening. That is what I kind of like got from watching
Yes.
it. And there's a sense of like feeling a little bit on edge while watching it. Like, and I think that's more of like the visual style. That, I mean, if anyone's seen like any of his movies, like it's similar to like the stuff he's made before, as far as like a little bit with the look and aesthetic, and like how he uses colors and all that. So like it's just so moody, and like it's just like, and like you are kind of engulfed in all that while you're watching it. Like that
It's
it really
oppressive.
made,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's what I mean by not saying like that. And there are some effective jump scares in it, but I'm glad that you know it's not built around that either. Like
No, exactly.
they're well, like I don't mind them if they're well utilized. So like I
Yes.
now there are definitely some, we've seen some awful horror movies where like you're like, oh, that stinger was in there because the movie sucks and it's not scary. So like they're trying to make it scary, and that
Right.
wasn't the case here. Um, not a lot of levity in the movie at all. It's a very dark movie. And I mean,
No,
but
there's
a
not.
prime example of like how sometimes counter programming on Christmas Day works. Like occasionally horror movies have been released around this time, like this one
The
being
Exorcist.
one.
Yeah.
And that's this. Back in the day, Scream came out on Christmas time.
Oh, cool.
Worked out very well for them, and then it worked out a year later when they released the sequel around Christmas time as well. So there's like apparently there's room for a little darkness on the holiday. I was happy to have seen it in a pretty packed theater. I was pretty happy to see that. So
Same
like it
here,
was
both
like
times I saw it.
and I know there's like things that we're gonna like we'll touch on about how people reacted to certain things like maybe later when we are talking about it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was so like impressed by like I think a part of me was like kind of worried because yeah, like a lot of people like we have loved his movies, but he's definitely not been in the realm of like a mainstream director. Like he seems very niche and kind of like cinephile for like a lot of people that like his stuff, right?
Cinephile, yes.
Yeah. So I
Well,
was just like, I guess working in his benefit is that people are familiar with Nosferatu in some way. They may have not seen the original, but like they are familiar with the name, the overall look. So I was like, okay, that could be a selling point. But then I was like, but it's Eggers. So I was like,
yeah.
and he hasn't really had like a mainstream hit like that. So I wonder who it's going to speak to beyond us. And it was just nice to see that it seems like it's continuing to have that. Like, I mean, it's performing very well, and it's cool to have him have that personal best for him. Not that I don't think he was necessarily chasing a hit,
No,
but I think this does a lot for him in the long run, and it's cool. I mean, I know that he, like you said, that this has been something that he wanted to do. I actually read the other day that he was also interested in doing Frankenstein, and like he kind of toyed with the idea and like realized that he was not right for it, and like
okay,
I guess he's happy that Guillermo del Toro is doing that. He's doing the Netflix movie
yeah,
for that. But I mean, when you can tell when someone is pretty enamored by source material, and you feel that in every frame of this. Like he really is enamored with source material. Like he loves it, he knows it, and in some ways, like putting a little bit of a spin on, like it's not like yes, it's a remake, but there's little changes that he's making here and there. But like for the most part, the heart of that story is there, and he doesn't. That is what's important to him, and I think he really sold how much he is like how much he knows about it and how much he loves that story, and that translates on screen. And like I
he's
think
as
that's very important. I don't know
he
if it's like it's like close to say I guess you can have it as a passion project, right? I guess for the most part.
that's a good way of putting it because he in interviews that I've watched of him lately, he discovered the original at like 8 or 9 years old when he got a VHS of it. So like this movie's
Yeah,
been in his life for a long time, and he knew he wanted to put his take on it. So I guess passion project is the right way to describe it. But what I was going to say about Robert Eggers is he is as much a historian as he is a filmmaker, and that really comes across in all four of his movies. He puts is an insane amount of like work and blood, sweat, and
yeah,
tears into making sure that his movies are like as historically accurate as possible in dialogue, in production,
yeah.
in just all ways. And I think Nosferatu was just as successful in that as his other works. Um, and I can't wait. I know that his script for his next movie is supposedly finished now, which just by the title alone, The Night with a K,
Yeah.
seems like it'll be set like in the past as well. And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was already a favorite, like a classic. I don't. I'm still struggling to see like how I rank this in like his filmography because like this is his fourth movie. I genuinely love the three of his other movies, but I'm kind of torn up
Yeah.
between if I like
I
this
did
in the
see your
Lighthouse.
letterbox score. You did really love it. I mean,
I did.
but I mean, it's like one of those things. Like, how do you rank like different movies with perfect scores? I guess like where do you kind of? Yeah, I agree
Exactly.
with you
Like
on that. Yeah, it's
at
hard.
some point, it's kind of arbitrary. Like I don't know. Like, but I've
Yeah,
seen it twice now in theaters, and I liked it even more on rewatch. It was just I was kind of just
it's
kind of
also
taking it all in
it's all
again.
the it's also the excitement that it's fresh and like you've seen the other movies, but this
Recency
one's like fresh in your
bias
mind.
is
Like
a thing
like
too. Yeah.
you might watch like The Lighthouse tomorrow and be like, oh wait, well no, that's a little better. Like, it all depends. Like
Yeah.
you know, I I I mean, he has a pretty good run. I mean, I like all of his movies have been good. I mean, they may not have been for everyone as far as like you know
Definitely not.
mainstream everyone, but like he definitely, and I feel like there's like, well, I will say, even though I don't know where I can rank it yet, um, there is definitely growth from like movie to movie. Like this, I mean, he is definitely honing in on different
Yes.
aspects of his directorial skills, like with each project, and like I don't know, not to say that his other stuff isn't confident, but there seemed to be a confidence in this, I guess. Like it really, I mean, and it could be because he's so passionate about the source material. Like there was like a like I don't want to I know I keep saying that it feels like his most mainstream movie of the ones that he's released,
But it,
but
yeah, it kind of does
yeah,
though,
yeah, but like there
in
is
a Robert
certainly,
Eggers kind of way.
but like I got the impression that there was just a lot of confidence behind the camera on this, and
Mm.
he really this is someone that really knew what he wanted from every single frame, every shot,
Yeah.
every performance, and I also, I mean, give him credit for how he directs actors too. I mean, he clearly is a actors director as well because like he pulled some very impressive performances from. I mean, everyone. I mean, I know there's for some reason there's a bone of contention about Aaron Taylor Johnson online. Some people wasn't picking up what he was putting down. I don't know why per se. I didn't really get the impression that he wasn't good. I was like, oh, like maybe not your cup of tea. Maybe not like some of the choices you would have made. I guess, as an actor, but like some people are not liking it, I guess, well, like him as much as like I was like kind of surprised because he's usually even in garbage like Craven the Hunter, he was getting good reviews for that. So that was a little surprising because I didn't like, when you see something and you go online, like I wonder what everyone else is saying, and like I was like, oh, I don't really see that narrative, but like whatever. But for the most part, I mean, particularly the leads, he's really pulling out a lot. I mean, I know we talked about Lily Rose Depp. I mean, I haven't really seen her in a ton. I did watch a few episodes of The Idol. It wasn't good. We already talked about that a little bit. But she wasn't that show's problem. She was very convincing, and I actually realized I haven't seen her in a ton of stuff.
I don't know that I've seen her in anything.
And I know, like, of course, to everyone that doesn't know, if the name Depp sounds familiar, like she's a Nepo baby, but she's talented though. I mean, so there's that. Like, she's she got them Johnny Depp genes, but she actually has like a full on like talent of her own. And I'm trying to think offhand like what other stuff other than The Idol I watched her in.
She's in The King, David Michôd's The King from 2019. I don't know if you saw it with Timothée Chalamet. I'm just seeing that. That's the only thing that I have seen her in, but it's a relatively small role. Anyway, no, this is really the first like definitely lead performance of hers I've seen, and she blew me away. I thought she was great. I was one of those people that really wanted Edgar's favorite Anya Taylor-Joy to be in this movie, but she dropped out, I think, for Furiosa. And so I was kind of like, whatever.
Well, I mean,
I know, hard pick. But Lily Rose Depp was fantastic in the role, and I have complete faith. Like, she was a great pick.
Yeah, she was. I mean, and honestly, I know it is I think if anyone has the whole, I guess, like, oh, is she talented or is she just getting by on like the last name? It's I guess what I can say about it the most, it's 100% committed. And that's what makes it so good, is that she is going all in, and like without any hesitation, without any like that is what you needed from that performance. And I felt like she lived it. Like, that's why I guess like what I reminded me of, like, she lived every ounce of that. And really just solid work. I mean, it makes me want to like hope for like what she's gonna do next, like kind of thing. Like, or maybe I could look into more like what she's done in the past. But like, he really pulled out, I guess, like what critics have said is a career best performance from her. And hopefully it will get rid of that notion that she's getting work because of her, the last name and all that. Like she is a talent of her own. She's a talent of her own. Agreed. And I think that she has proved. I think the reviews that she's gotten for it prove that she is, very much has her own talent, and she is perfectly utilized it here. I mean, I was impressed by. I was like, I've tried to follow interviews that she's done for the movie, and like I know she's talked about a little bit about how immersive a lot of it was for her.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of tell. I mean, like it seemed like it was a lot for her, but like in a positive way though. Like, I mean, she like I said, she went all in. I was impressed. I don't think everyone could have done that without some vanity, like they'd be like worried about doing the stuff that she has to do. And I think that's what makes the performance so good, is there is a lack of vanity in it. Like, she's just like, I don't care how this will make me look, because I'm going to try to make it as believable as I can. And that's why it worked for me with her.
Speaking of going all in and career best performance, we've got to talk about Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok in this movie. Where did he go?
Yeah, okay. This was kudos to Focus Features for keeping him hidden for most of the marketing. Like, I mean, guess all the marketing.
Great job.
Just shadows and all that stuff in most of the trailers that we saw. I'm glad I didn't listen. There was some audio that was, I don't know why Focus Features released it, but they did it on their X page of his voice. They released that on their X page. I'm glad I didn't listen to it, because like that would have ruined a little bit of an extra layer of surprise there. So it works, because I was like, okay, like the whole time we're like, what are we gonna see? What are we expecting?
Yeah, what's he gonna look like?
Also, I'm not really surprised. Bill Skarsgård has a history of just playing like offbeat, not himself characters.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is
prosthetics,
like typecasting. I think at this point, if you're for it, do you like it? I mean, I think a lot of what works for me is that the element of surprise was there. So that kind of added to it. Or I was like, oh, like it wasn't jarring. I was like, oh, this is bad. I don't like it. Or like I was just kind of like a little off kilter. I like seeing the look for the first time. It's not like totally like just a copy of like what that character looks like. There's a I don't know. I just love the element of surprise. I think it works. I think your reaction to what you just said is probably the best. I kind of felt that way a bit. I like, what is he doing? But I'm okay with it. Like, it's like, I don't know. It was like, it works for me.
Like, you don't even recognize him in any way,
At
shape,
all.
or form. Like, his performance was incredible. Like, the voice alone, even if we didn't even see the character, just his voice, like, I would never buy that was Bill Skarsgård able to manipulate his voice that way. Like, he perfected that
Yeah.
Eastern European accent that was booming and almost came from the darkness itself rather than from a set of lungs. Like, it was.
It has some bass.
It has some bass. Loved how
really good at home on surround sound. I think.
Exactly. It was fantastic in the theater, but what they were able to do, and I know they do sound mixing and stuff, but like listening to him talk about the process of how he was able to get that out of him and how unbelievable it was I didn't expect that because like it's not in the marketing. I was really just waiting to see him appear on screen for the physical look because Count Orlok is such a infamous looking character, especially like Klaus Kinski from the 79 version. I love the look of that vampire. So I was like really waiting to see how Robert Eggers would like tee up to that, like how he would compare. And I knew that the design of that character was going to be a huge selling point of the movie, especially for like cinephiles. So when I heard him before I saw him, I was like, holy, that's not what I expected, but in a good sort of way. I really
I didn't expect that either. It was surprising.
Yeah.
I was like really impressed by like you're almost like out in the like that. Actually, you can actually feel our theater kind of like move
rumble
a little bit. Like they were like, whoa, it's like, you know, that you almost a collective, like everyone kind of lean closer, like kind of thing, like, which is kind of cool experience to kind of have as everyone's kind of feel reacting the same way to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just smart how they did it. I mean, it really, you know, like you do see, you know, of course, a lot of the creature in it, but like even a lot of it is like obscured in shadows and stuff like that. There's still a, even though there was a mystery as far as like in the marketing, there is still a sense of a little mystery in even how he's presented a bit. And I think that's kind of helps. And like, you know, I mean, they tell you like in different movies, like you don't really want to show the monster too much because it dilutes it a bit, right? Like if you can find ways to obscure the monster, like that maintains that level of mystery. Like I know, like with Jaws, like not having the shark was like a technical issue more than like and a necessity. Like it didn't work a lot, so like that's why they had to like not use it a lot. But that ended up being like a selling point. Like all right, you don't see it, and then your imagination, you know,
fills in the blank.
Right. And I think that worked here too. Like, you know, it was a really good directing choice by Robert Eggers, and then also it's a combination of like how he chose to present him, and also in how Bill Skarsgård did it. I know that some people were like, "Yeah, he seems typecast in these roles, the kind of types of roles now." But like, man, if he's doing good, I mean, if it's good work, I don't.
Who else could do that? I don't know.
I can't think of anyone else at all
for the job. No.
And like I know this guy, I know this wipes the sweet stench of the crow away because I know it's back in August, but like he can happily be like, yo, just focus on this, not that.
Yeah.
And like I did end up seeing that at home. It's not good, but he was good in it. Like he's a good actor, so it's not so much issue with him. But like this was like it's so weird because he's not, when I think about him, he's not A-list, I guess. Like he's in a lot of stuff. He's in a lot of stuff, but like, you know, it seems like there's something. I mean, he's reliable. I know the last name, of course, he's famous relatives and stuff like that also act. But like, that's like one of the things I was thinking about watching. I was like, what do we call him now? It's interesting because he has the look of someone that could be in his own way a traditional like good looking A-list actor, but all of his sensibilities are totally character actor driven.
Character actor is how I picture him. Yeah.
So like I mean I love that he chooses to do stuff like that, and he completely like disappears in it every time he does it. Mm-hmm. So like I mean I think that is part of the why that his take on it works, because he much like Lady Rose Depp, who was committed, he was also 100% committed to that, and it wouldn't work without that commitment too. So
it wouldn't. And the whole the movie is fantastic aside from that performance. So I feel like that performance from Bill completely seals the deal and really has a nice cherry on top of this movie. It's also cool that this is the second Skarsgård brother that's worked with Robert Eggers, because his brother Alexander was the lead in the Northman a couple of years ago. So I actually kind of forgot about that until I read it. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forget that they're brothers all the time.
You're like, yeah, I kind of
very different actors.
They are very not only are they very different, they don't really exactly look alike either.
No,
so that's why I always forget it. That's why I always forget that they're related. But yeah, yeah, he was amazing. I mean, I like in a more fun world. I know I shouldn't complain about this because we got the substance chill in there, and that will hopefully represent horror at award season. Yeah, I think, and there could have been an avenue where he could have maybe snuck in a supporting actor. I think, if they
would love that.
If they would have pushed the movie more, I think that there was a possibility there. I don't know if everyone else feels that way, but I think that was he definitely is that good.
And, well, he is at least getting recognition in the online community, and other people in this sphere have really been praising his performance. And I mean, you can still make the argument that I don't even know how you can even distinguish that is that guy underneath all that makeup. 6-hour makeup process too, which I'm curious how that stacks up to his role as Pennywise. But a lot of people are really commending him on how he disappeared into that role, and I know that takes a toll on a person too. And he's spoken at length about how
I think he kind of he was I think he was a bit isolated from everyone else. He talked about while promoting it, he really, and that was just a product of the character and what he felt he needed to do. So I was listening in interviews him talking about it, he seemed a little not sad, but he was he didn't really get to know, I guess, much of the other cast, and then much of, I guess the only person that he really got to interact with mostly as far as is for building that connection was Lily Rose Depp, and then the rest of them, he said that he really didn't really get to interact with them until they started promoting the movie. So I mean, that's how and I think he kind of needs, he needs that isolation probably was necessary, because it probably helps him. I guess this is the only way I would tolerate method acting. It feels a little bit, but at least it's not performative. It seems like he needs to just do that to kind of add to the realism of what he was portraying. So I'll go with it. Yeah.
What did you think about the cinematography of this movie? I thought it was really, really interestingly lit. I want to say that I read that it was all naturally lit, but some of the exterior shots of the moonlight, I thought it had this really cool blue hue on the screen that I thought was really, really interesting. And it did remind me of some of the shots in the Northman, some of the nighttime sequences. It felt I'm not sure if it was shot by the same person, but I just really liked the cinematography of this movie. But what did you think?
I thought it looked great. I mean, that is one area I think if it could sneak in as far as maybe a cinematography now, for that. It's a beautiful looking movie. I love the kind of almost like black and white kind of shots too, and there's it has a really interesting kind of color palette to it, and I think that adds to the kind of moody nightmarish aspect of the story and of the film. That is what makes you feel you're kind of immersed in it all. I mean his movies have similar looks bit, but I think I was thinking when I was watching it, is this the best looking of his movies? It probably because it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think. Well, I don't think it's the Witch. I thought that movie's not really well shot. The Lighthouse, I really like. It's more of a simple cinematography where it's just black and white. It looks fantastic, but I think it'd be between this and the Northman, where there's just some more complex shots and they're bigger scale and bigger sets to work with. And so I don't know. There's some sequences in the Northman that I think are really, really well shot, like the volcano sequence and the scenes with the Valkyrie and some of the shots of Alexander Skarsgård going through the village, when he's in full Viking mode. But I do think that it could be the recency bias, but I would probably give the edge to Nosferatu with all the like the landscape shots and like the castle was filmed so beautifully. Like that
Yeah.
an approach shot of the carriage going
You
up.
can almost like could take that. Yeah,
Right?
I was gonna say you can almost take that image and almost like it would be like a really epic piece of art, like on your
Yeah,
wall, like
that's what
just
a
a still
lot of
from it.
his movies
Yeah,
feel like. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I love that shot, and I love like the way like because like most of like the kind of some of the scenes involving like dreams and nightmares and stuff like that. I love that how they set those with like kind of like the black and white look a bit to kind of make them stand out a bit more from like other scenes in the movie, and then like kind of like you like using like these saturated colors a bit in other scenes. Like I think I love that some of the looks that he tried to do like really worked with like the scenes that were taking place on screen, right? Like, like kind of like made them stand out from like scene to scene. I don't know, like I is this I don't know if this is like actually more expensive than the Northman. I think the Northman was a pretty expensive movie to make, but
I'll
it
find
looks
out.
pretty. It
Yeah.
looks like I mean, it looks like all the money was on the screen, so that's why I was like trying to go with that. Yeah.
Well,
Like,
this was shot for $50 million, which is actually a pretty
good budget.
mid-level budget, which we don't
Yeah.
see a lot of that
And
anymore.
that's very rare nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's already double that budget, by the way. Yeah, the Northman was 70
Okay.
million.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it looks like every ounce of every penny's on screen. So that's why I was wondering like if it's more expensive. But yeah, and that's another good point too. Like, we talk about how like the mid-budget movie doesn't exist anymore, and like
Right. I guess
isn't that successful, and like there we go. And he made one very successful one.
Well,
but yeah, it is a beautiful movie. Like and like I always love when like movies that have kind of like it's supposed to be frightening, it's supposed to be like nightmares, it's supposed to be moody, and but there's a beauty to that. Like that, it's not like there's something in like the way it's shot where it's like, I should be unsettled, but I almost like you're unsettled by how like in the midst of that how beautiful everything is too. Like he really found like tone to like kind of mix that beauty with horror, and like I love the way it looks. Cinematography is great.
Yeah, I love too that he got $50 million to make this movie because The Northman wasn't a financial hit at all. It didn't even worldwide make its budget back.
Lost some money, yeah. So
yeah,
so I always found it interesting that they like gave him all that money because he for The Northman, because like his other movies weren't proven like big hits.
No, they're very small niche like cinephile movies, like you mentioned earlier.
Not that I didn't want him to have like that money to make a project that he wanted to make, but I was like, usually that's not the case. Usually studios are like, hey, you haven't made like a big hit yet, so we're not gonna throw money at you. But I guess
right, and 70 million is no small paycheck. Yeah,
that's almost like just as like I guess a kind of mark on his talent. Rather, they're like, okay, well, we're gonna risk it on you.
Well, clearly studios have faith in his movie making abilities because he was not stopped, even though I don't think The Northman really resonated with like the masses. I think in hindsight, though, people that as Egger's career develops, and it's still, I mean, he's in over a 10-year gap. He's put out 4 movies, which is actually a really good pace, especially because he had a 4-year gap between The Witch and The Lighthouse. But I really think that, especially I think Nosferatu may be the one that really puts him on the map with maybe some more casual audiences because it's obviously doing quite well. And I think The Northman will, in the same sense that I think Babylon from the same year is going to be
it'll be a cult
an
classic,
overlooked classic. Like in 10 years, people are gonna be like, why did this movie not get more attention and loved? But The Northman is an exceptional movie. But
I will say
I love that this movie is successful.
Yeah, I am too. I honestly, like, I'm glad you mentioned that. I know we're not talking about it. I still haven't forgiven some of y'all for letting Babylon flop. I will never. I don't understand.
I will never either.
I don't know how that happened, but there'll be justice for that movie one day.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did you think of Nicholas Hoult?
Glad you mentioned it because I
great
think
year, by the way. He's having a pretty great year.
Wicked year. And then 2025 is going to be big for him too in Superman, James Gunn's DC universe. So the guy's probably on a career high right now. So I do feel like his performance is kind of getting lost in the mix just because of how great the two. And he does. Would you say he's a lead or a supporting?
I feel like he's a lead. I mean, like
he's in quite a bit of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as showy as like the other performances, I guess, and that could be why it's not getting like mentioned as much. But he's. I mean, I actually think he's a solid actor in general. Like, I mean, I haven't seen him like even like in some of those like X-Men movies that he did, I was like, all right, he is standing out as like a pretty good actor, and I love the menu and stuff like that. He has
man,
really
I just
disappointed.
rewatched
And
that. Yeah.
it was funny. I watched Juror number 2 maybe like 3 days before I saw this, and like it's such a different role too. Like so that's just another showcase of like how versatile he is as an actor. But I thought he was good. I mean, but it's also not really like a, I won't say not a great role because like it's kind of based on the Jonathan Harker role from like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and my only other kind of exposure to that was seeing that movie with Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder, and Keanu Reeves inhabited that part.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With a very not so great British accent. He's like the sore thumb in that Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Yes.
But so if I'm comparing it to like that character, then Nicholas Hoult is aces above that.
He where I thought his performance really stood out is how he portrayed being terrified. Like all the sequences
you felt
the
it,
castle. Oh my god, he was very convincing. Like you just saw the terror on his face, especially when he's kind of just realizing that there's like something supernatural going on. Like there's an awesome, and I don't know like the film like how he pulled it off. But there's a scene like right when he gets there when he's being led up the stairs and like Count Orlok is right in front of him and they kind of are going up the winding staircase and like he gets to the top and Orlok should just be a few steps ahead of him and he's like nowhere to be seen and he's like, okay, this is weird. And then later, like in that scene in the fireplace room when he like Orlok is like having him go over like the real estate contract and Count Orlok is like in front of him walking around the table and then the next thing you know he's over his shoulder like pouring him a glass of wine and then like his like utter awe in that scene he just said a lot on his face by saying by doing little and and then
he
all
has
the
very
other
expressive
castles.
eyes too. I think that helps.
He does,
that
would
and
help.
I think where a lot of it had like the genuine kind of like shock or like awe that he conveys that really well. But yeah, I think like and most of the reviews like no one's signaling about it's not being not good. It's just like it's not as showy as like some of the other performances or roles. So yeah, but I think he more than holds his own. I mean, he is a capable leading man. Did you find the character to be a lead? I know I think it was, I guess, but did you think he was what would be called the lead? I know it's not ensemble, but like was he the definitive lead for you?
Like I guess in terms of screen time, but it's ultimate. Like it doesn't feel like it's his story. He feels very much like a pawn in the story. But like it's hard to say that it would be Bill Skarsgård just because like he doesn't have like the screen time of a lead, but he is like a presence throughout the movie the entire time. You feel like he is like a lead role, and then once Willem Dafoe's character of Van France comes in, like he has a lot of screen time once he's introduced to, and then I feel like Nicholas Hoult kind of takes a back seat, but ultimately, especially the first half of the movie, he is in quite a bit of it. So I guess he would be a lead, but it just did feel like there was a lot of demands on like the top, like the lead, like 6 actors. There was a lot of a lot of the supporting characters had a lot of screen time, which was like interesting to see. There was a lot expected of them, which was nice.
They actually like kind of like the way the movie was cut and the way they kind of it felt like they were almost not supporting so much. Like they were utilized in the film like really well.
Yeah, like leads almost.
Yeah, their presence was felt like throughout. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. But yeah, I enjoyed him. Willem Dafoe, which I guess is like essentially like the I guess kind of Van Helsing of the story.
Yeah.
He's having a lot of fun, and that's all else. I mean, that I respect it, and I also love like the kind of connection, like because he was in Shadow of the Vampire. And like that was it's a nice little like nod, I guess. I don't know if he thought of that when he cast him or if that was in the back of his mind, but it is kind of cool to have him there. I mean, he it's one of those things where my friend that was sitting next to me, he was like, I feel like Willem Dafoe understood the assignment, like for what that role was supposed to be.
And I love that he gets a couple cool monologues.
Yeah. I mean, like, and honestly, it's a role that is like a lot of exposition too. So that can honestly like not be interesting, like where you just have someone like detailing things. So whoever is doing that needs to be a really good actor. So like, like you said, he has a lot of monologues and all that stuff too. So like it helps that Willem Dafoe is a really fine actor because that anyone else trying to like give all of that, would have been like, oh, this feels boring. Like you're like, oh, you're just telling us what's happening or what's going on, and then he also had a ton of fun. But he kind of like it seems like he's always been like that in movies, but it seems like lately he's just having a ball.
The show though. Yeah, he is so active
like
for a guy of his age.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
in multiple movies a year, like every year it seems. He's in a lot of stuff lately.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed him. He was actually a highlight for a lot of people. A lot of reviewers who saw the movie.
That scene where he's like lighting up that sarcophagus with all like the scene with like all the rats inside too, and he's like the other two like Ralph Ineson and Nicholas Hoult like are fleeing the tomb, and he's finishing the job and lighting that body on fire and monologuing. Like that sequence is that is like pure Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, 2,000 trained rat actors were used in this movie. I mean, really created some there are some scenes in the movie that like really like that would be one of them, like that really just stuck. I mean, like I love that it's not like, I mean, there are some disturbing images in it, and I'm glad that it's not like all of it's not like totally gratuitous. It's like, but it's enough where it was like it did just enough where I was kind of like I wasn't expecting some of these things. That glad that it's not like thrown at you like that, but like it like I think it's just how he directs it and how he's like utilizing like some more of the disturbing imagery like is why it is effective, and then like and he uses it kind of sparingly and won't when necessary. So like that made it work.
Pretty gory in places, which I appreciated.
Yeah. What was you mentioned? What was the moment that made your girlfriend? I guess not wince, but like what?
Well, she looked at me and she went like seriously. It was the scene when. So spoiler alert, because we didn't really get into a whole lot of spoilers, but the scene where on the second night that Count Orlok gives to Lily Rose Depp's character for her to sort of like willingly succumb to him, he visits the Harding household and annihilates their two young daughters. And there's a scene where Anna opens the door and you hear the children screaming about the monster in the room. She opens the door and he's like drops one and like is like biting the throat of another. Just a ferocious scene. And like I was like giddy because I'm like, that is exactly what I want.
Oh, you love that.
And I was like laughing, like this is so awesome, like in a good way. Like this is so badass, and like just like good on Robert Eggers to go there and show this. And like Kaden was not impressed. She was like, "Are you serious? Like they do that?" She did not like that the children got hurt.
Well, I mean, that in some horror movies, like some people think animals should be off limits. I think I was shocked by it. I mean, I
didn't see it coming the first time.
Me either. And I'm like, I know what you mean by like giggling. I mean, I certainly didn't giggle, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, they went there, and I'm glad that they went there. Thank you for actually going there, because honestly, like you have to kind of show like how dark and also depraved that character is too, like that, and that goes a long way to do that. And I'm glad they did. I mean, they're not holding back on it. Our theater was very surprised too. There was like actually a lady sitting in front of me that she like get pictures, and she was like, "Oh my!" Like that's what she said, like really loud. And my friend was sitting next to me who was initially shocked by it, and then like kind of giggled by that reaction too. Like it is kind of like you don't expect it, but it's certainly in the good way.
Like, the first time around that I saw, I didn't really notice this, but tonight was my second watch of this movie, and it reminded me of an earlier scene. It kind of acted as a payoff because earlier in the movie, like before Thomas departs to Transylvania, there's a scene of those same two little girls complaining about being sent off to bed, and they're doing what seems like any child would do, and like making up excuses for like their parent to come tuck them in and to buy some time before going to bed. And they complain of a monster in their room under the bed, and they can hear him breathing, and that has a completely different meaning once you see him feasting on them later. It's like, oh, was that them actually like just being kids and making stuff up, or was he stalking that house before he actually really got there? So it got me thinking, and I was like, that's a really cool detail.
Yeah, and that's like, and that kind of that detail too. It does something for the imagination too, because you're like, oh, like it gives much more implications to like that outcome. Like, oh, like what they had been like, hearing and experiencing. Yeah,
Mm.
I love when movies do stuff like that. I love a
Mhm.
good callback. You're like, oh, yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I know we talked about it a little bit offline. Just people's reactions to certain scenes in the movie. Maybe not appropriate reactions to scenes that aren't supposed to
Yeah.
be funny. I want to say too. I know we are talking about like how committed Lily Rose Depp is in the movie. Some of that commitment is featured in like some of these possession kind of scenes that she has,
Yep.
and I'm watching it looking at someone who's giving a really great performance, and you talked about it too. Like it was pretty packed theater. There were some younger people there, probably not expecting to see like a prestige like horror movie the way it was. They probably were expecting
Yeah.
something else.
Yep.
And this
Guaranteed.
has been like a big issue online where people are complaining how basically etiquette when it comes to like these kind of movies and people laughing at stuff that's not supposed to be funny. People did during my screening. You said that you had that experience too.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I guess I don't know. I didn't get the impression that they were scenes that play like, oh, she's overacting or it's over the top. Like I just bought her commitment to
Mhm.
it, and which is why I didn't find them like I didn't giggle because like, oh, this is like kind of bad. I guess that could happen where if it wasn't a good enough performance, that you would be like, oh, this is like maybe roll your eyes like looks very silly. But I didn't get that impression, so
I didn't
I
get
thought
that
not people.
impression either, and I could tell by like there was some like teenage age girls like laughing at some of her characters like moaning and like writhing
Yeah,
around in those possession scenes. And like, yeah, maybe I get it. Like when I was young, would I have like giggled at that? But like, it's hard. Like maybe these people genuinely like that scene or that performance didn't resonate with them, and they kind of found it silly. It's hard to like police someone's behavior or reaction to something,
yeah,
but it's also kind of annoying when I'm bought into this performance and this is a genuinely well acted scene and she's doing the job,
yeah. It
and
does
then
distract a
somebody's like
bit from it.
it does distract and take you out of it. And
Yeah,
now here's somebody like a few rows down that's like giggling because she's making these like kind of sexual noises. And
it
it's like
is.
I think
Yeah,
there obviously is a commentary on like her hysteria and sexuality in that movie during those scenes. Like without a doubt, it
yeah,
comes across as sexual, and maybe some audience members just weren't mature enough to like handle that or didn't expect it, and it's hard to like fault them for that. But also, you're in an audience, pretty full theater, like kind of just take it seriously, grow up a little bit. It's I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on to if I would if I feel like if it's appropriate to place blame, but regardless of how I feel, it is annoying when you are invested in something and somebody's kind of detracting from it.
yeah. I mean, like there is like, I mean, there is like there's an intensity to how she's playing it. Like, I mean, like the whole like, she's like kind of tearing at her clothes. Like I mean, I guess there's like gyrating and spasming and stuff like that. Like,
Yep.
but like I'm looking at it as like, it's intense. I'm not looking at it as like this is
Right.
silly.
Yeah.
And maybe in the wrong hands it could have come out silly. I didn't like think that at all. Like I mean, she is going full tilt and
Yep.
like but it's I don't necessarily want to blame a crowd for. Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess like part of me wants to spend like low maturity guys like, hey, like it's but I can't control how people react to scenes in the
Yeah.
movie.
Exactly. It's
Um,
it's a conflict for sure.
but it definitely has like pissed off some people who have talked about like at their screenings how it completely took them out of it, and they were like disappointed by the theater etiquette during those scenes. And um, sometimes young people are going to be stupid. So I guess that's also why I can only explain it. I mean, like I personally didn't notice any older audience members like chuckling at it. Like the
I
ones
didn't
I kind
really
of could
even
tell were
notice
like,
any older audience members in general at my screenings. It's funny you
oh
mentioned
really? All
that.
right.
No,
Oh, that's
I wasn't really looking around though, but
cool. Like you get
yeah,
the
it was
younger
pretty hip crowd. Yeah.
younger folk checking it out in
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the screening tonight, we were a few minutes late. My bad. I had already seen it, so I didn't have that sense of urgency to get there. But we were in line for snacks, and people were moving slow, so we got in there and
Yeah.
went right to the seat. So I didn't really get to observe the crowd as I normally would have. Maybe taken a look around, but it's very possible. But
Yeah.
um, I know there were a lot of standout scenes in this movie, as in any Eggers movie. But are there any that stood out like as a favorite or a highlight of the movie for you? If you could name one.
It was one that like what I loved that was like kind of a quiet, kind of beautiful moment. And I know it comes at the end, like kind of like how or like dies basically. It's a beautiful image, like how it happens. I remember like thinking like this, I mean, there was the way he shot it, like you feel like I mean, like I love that it wasn't done like, I mean, we see how like kind of vampires are kind of the way they are killed in movies like this, or like, and throughout like movies that feature them. And it's just a beautiful like shot. Like I just love the way that they kind of like, it's almost like his face melts in the sun basically. And it was like a really like beautiful shot. I really liked that kind of like how he portrayed that on screen.
Yeah.
And
That
it was like
carnal
really,
scream that came from him
that too,
was so awesome.
Yeah,
so well done.
Was like that image, along with that, like kind of like the intensity of like hearing that. I really loved how that like I love kind of moments like that. Like even though there was an intensity to how he was reacting to it, I just loved how there's a little bit of a simplicity in how it was going on. But like I don't know, a lot of his stuff is just like beautiful to look at, and even like I was amazed when like you're directing like a horror movie or something like that, and you can find the beauty in like something a little bit depraved a bit.
Yeah.
Like I almost feel bad that I'm thinking like, oh, this is like it is art. And I think he really conveyed that. I really love that moment. But yeah, that carnal kind of yell was like, along with that imagery, was pretty like intense.
And the bleeding from his eyes and his mouth, and it was really good effect. And then that downward shot of his corpse, like his bare corpses laying on that bed, and it's soaked in blood. That is it's like beautiful and horrific at the same time. Equal parts her and him.
And that is kind of like that's a balance. Like I think really good directors find in that. Like if you could take something that like seemingly gruesome and be like, oh, why am I like looking at this like it's a piece of art? Like like this is somehow beautiful. That's why some people don't understand when people discuss scenes like this or in any horror movie, like how can you see the beauty and art in that? But like a good director will make you see it, and like that, that's the difference between showing something gratuitous and violent and gory for the sake of it, and finding like the kind of like the almost like humanity in like shots like that. And it's a hard balance, but I think he really did a good job with it, because I don't know, I should have, there's certain things that you should kind of be disgusted by, and it's just like I really wasn't necessarily
right.
And I know like you kind of like you love your blood and your gore and like all that stuff, but like but also I think you understand too, like there is like a certain like, oh, this is actually art too, like it feels like
without a doubt. That's what I love about Eggers' movies is he is one of the directors working today that most evoke art in a traditional sense in his movies and how they look and how they're shot. So that's what, and that was there's no difference in Nosferatu with that. Like every shot looks like a painting. That's something I really love about Werner Herzog's version of this too. There were like classic, like Renaissance and Romantic period era paintings that literally were shot for shot inspired some of the sequences in his version of that movie, and it's really cool to see them. A lot of the landscape shots. So art is absolutely at the forefront of my mind when I'm appreciating a movie like Nosferatu, like you said, a sort of a premier sort of horror. Like it's something that I really look for, and Eggers taps into that. Obviously, he has an affinity for art and paintings and whatever other versions of it. But it really comes across in his films.
Yeah, and I know we were talking about the jump scares thing earlier. I think when Orlok actually grabs like it was his first kind of invasion of her. That was like a really effective jump scare in the movie too. I thought that scene was really good. And it's interesting. I watched maybe one trailer or two, maybe. Kind of remember that, I guess, image in the trailer, but I don't know if they used it like in a way where like it gave that scene away, and like so I couldn't remember it, but like in my mind I was like I didn't expect it really, so like maybe it was utilized differently in the trailer or not, but like I
think so, because I don't think you see him in the trailer like that.
Because
you see that sequence.
I definitely jumped pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was
I
a
didn't
startle
expect the
moment.
jump scares. The one that got me was when Nicholas Hoult first goes to, like, when he's trying to leave the castle and he pries open that door and takes off the top of his crypt, and you see his like decayed
Yep.
body there, and he's gonna stab him with like, that pickaxe, and he reaches up and grabs it, and then standing up. That was a jump scare I didn't see coming, and that one was good. And also, there's one of Lily Rose Depp when they're having like that sex scene near the end, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden it flashes like her bloodied face, the blood pouring out of her eyes and mouth, and
Nice. Yeah.
that was very unexpected, and that kind of, I was like, oh shit, I did not see a jump scare coming there, so that kind of got me. But there's a few,
Yeah.
which isn't like Robert Eggers' typical style, but I appreciated them.
They were well
Yeah,
utilized though. I mean,
were
I'm
good.
glad they weren't simply just stingers, like just throw in like a big
It reminded me,
bearded like yeah. They
yeah, it
all
reminded me of the ones in Long Legs, just kind of similarly utilized.
Yeah, they were all like they all felt necessary to the scene, and not just because like, oh, let's put this here because like the movie's not scary enough, or the audience is getting bored. Like it really, yeah. I love that they were unexpected because some of them I was like feeling like you, like when movies like are more like, I guess, adult kind of horror movies, like I really don't expect them like in them
Mm.
at all, really. So I was impressed that he did utilize them. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But and also just effectively used them well. And because we're not expecting it, I think that's why they did work so well. Because you're not really expecting him to use them. And it's just like shit. Like it's a real, like, genuine, like, startling moment when he does. But
Yes, absolutely.
what were some of your scenes that like really stood out to you? Or,
Like I said, there's a few, but I think the one that I was most on this rewatch that I was most anticipating and found myself like excited to see again is the shot of Orlok on top of Nicholas Holt's character when like there's no score, it goes completely silent, and you just hear him and see him like breathing in the
meaning,
blood and you get like two or three big like chest
yeah,
rises and falls as he's like sucking the, that is such an awesome sequence, and it just
yeah,
feels so raw. It was just,
yeah,
oh, it was gross to hear, but like so well composed. Just like, it's
yeah,
really brief, but it's great.
yeah.
And like I
And
love that
also,
all the, yeah,
I love that too. And kudos to like the sound design too, because the sound design is like pretty effective too. It's
yeah.
like you feel like almost every, like, that scene being the best good example, like you kind of, the way you hear that moment, it's just like it's so like ingrained in your, like, that is all you can hear, like every kind of like element of the sound, like that was really
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that and the
Yeah,
opening too, which unfortunately, because we were a little bit late, we missed that first scene of him, like his shadow on the curtain and her looking at the window, and like him in the garden with her. Like we did miss that, so I was bummed about that because that was a really strong open of that movie and it set the tone going forward. But I did get to see it the first viewing, so that was a highlight for me as well.
Were the snacks your idea or her idea? So like this.
Her idea. I'm not much of a movie snack guy. I appreciate it because I had probably more than half of that popcorn, but I wouldn't have been waiting in that line if I was solo. But it's okay.
Yeah.
I had already seen it, but I felt bad that she missed out on that, but she was okay. And then another just small little side story. I wasn't even going to share it because we were so into the movie, but when we got there tonight, because we were a few minutes late, some genius, there was a younger, like, I don't know if they were a couple, if there was a group of friends, but one of our two seats was occupied when we got in it, so we were like late. The first scene's playing out, and we're running down, not running, but we're hurriedly going down the aisle, and we have to cut across like 6 or 7 people because we're in the middle of the row, and all of a sudden there's one seat there. So I like put my girlfriend in that other seat, and I kind of kneel down so that I'm not like disrupting other viewers, and I'm like just casually to this guy. He was a younger, I don't know if he's a teenager or somewhere around that age. I was like, hey, like, yeah, like, I have this seat. Like, I didn't like say like move or anything. I just kind of let him figure it out. And but it was just kind of a disruption for about 30 seconds before we could sit there, and it was just annoying, but there was no big deal. He moved and he kind of just looked around. I felt bad. I think he just went and snagged a different empty seat. But now I'm like, did this kid even pay for this ticket, or did he just waltz in here?
Yeah,
anyway,
that's always awkward.
Yeah.
That's always awkward. Dude.
I've never had that happen, but I'm usually prompt when I'm at a movie. So
I had it happen to me. Like, I'm not in. Someone's been in my seat, and which is always awkward when you have to like
Yeah,
say it,
I don't think
and
it's
then
ever happened to me.
it's always awkward to do, and it always seems like it takes a lot longer in my brain. Like it feel that like 20
Yeah,
seconds feels like a minute. Like it's way, like because they're like you don't want to be out of people's way and
right,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm also not a fan of like our AMC like with that has food delivered if you want to do that, and that's always
Oh,
dropped off. That's always
that's
dropped off
cool.
awkwardly during when the movie's starting though, and the
Yeah.
guy or that guy or girl's like trying to look like is this and like this is so awkward. Like they never like deliver it during the previews. It's always like right when the movie's on, and like they're in the way, and like it's very very awkward.
Oh, that's definitely not something that not a feature we have in our theater. That would be, I could see that being annoying when you're trying to sit down and buckle up for a movie and then you have somebody dropping off a hot dog or something. Like
Yeah, I mean
that's
like I.
interesting.
That's interesting. I think like our AMC, you get like chicken tenders. They have like they try to give you like gourmet meals at the theater. It's weird. Like I mean, I guess they upgraded like
Cineplex,
that a
they
bit.
have what's called outtakes, which is like their tiny little like fast food restaurant inside, and there's some pretty delicious stuff there. But there's no catering service where they bring it into you. That's pretty bougie,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is really the movie
Oh,
theater food is pretty elite.
I do want to point out that I actually saw this in IMAX. I know you don't really.
Oh
You
man.
guys, you guys don't have
Oh,
them, right? Like you don't have, you don't do
well,
you?
we recently over the holidays, maybe like earlier December, the biggest city in my province, Moncton, it's like an hour and a half for me. It now has an
Yeah,
IMAX theater. So that's where I went to go see 2001 The Space Odyssey earlier in the year was at that theater. It was before it was an IMAX, but I will
yeah.
be definitely going there to see some movies in theaters for sure. Like Nolan's next movie I'll be going to see. They are probably Dune
Uh,
Part 3. I'll make the effort to go see in IMAX.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
okay. Well, I'm glad you're finally getting it because like
yeah,
it's. I
so
mean,
big
I think
news.
you actually get the beauty of it if like if you didn't see it in IMAX, but it's a nice way to see it if anyone's interested in
Yeah.
seeing it in IMAX. It's certainly worth it. It was interesting because like one of the guys I followed, he was so amazed. Like even though Mufasa, the Lion King prequel, is making money like a little bit, um, he was like, oh, I don't understand why because like he was showing images of like their IMAX screenings compared to Nosferatu's, and their IMAX screenings were like not as sold out. Nosferatu's were, and they were
Mm,
just like, dude, I would have just like handed. He was, I would have just handed these all to Nosferatu if you were noticing that like these pre-sales aren't really selling, it's not really like generating much interest in IMAX, and Nosferatu was clearly. I'm always interested in like when certain
interesting.
movies do generate that kind of interest, like if that is just like, hey, like this movie looks good to see in IMAX, or if that is like a pure like cinephile we have to see if that is that crowd is seeing Nosferatu in IMAX, like that's selling it. But yeah, it was interesting to see it. They're pretty much mostly
Yeah.
sold out.
That's awesome. I've never seen a movie in IMAX even yet, so I can't wait for that first experience, whatever it ends up being. But that is awesome. I'm glad you got to experience it in IMAX. I would have loved that. But I already can't wait as soon as I see that 4K
Oh,
on the shelf in a few months from now. I'm getting that.
you're pre-ordered. Oh well, yeah, you're gonna be like snagging it. It'll certainly be a pretty good physical
Yeah.
release, and like one that everyone should probably own if they like the movie. I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. The sound design is great. I mean everything about it. It's just like it's rich in its atmosphere. So like that is like that's the biggest selling point of it. And I think that
Mhm.
yes, there's like kind of disturbing, kind of grotesque scenes in it, but the atmosphere is the biggest thing that worked for me. And like it
For
just
the
like I
character in
said,
itself. Yeah.
yeah, like I said, even when there is some kind of lull in the movie, like there's so much going on visually that you feel like there's more going on than like even when like
Yeah.
there's not a lot. So like, I mean, that is like a testament of like what he does as director. He certainly has a distinct style, um, and like I mean, like I said, I do love the confidence in which he approached the movie. That was like a big thing when I was watching it.
Mhm.
Like of course he's never made a bad movie yet, but like there was certain like you could tell, like I said, he obviously loves this story and was like
Yeah.
really invested in telling it. And I think that is why the movie worked so well for me, and like
Mhm.
maybe why it worked so well for you. I mean, you love him as a director as well, but um
Exactly. But yeah, like his passion and care for the story and the source material was quite evident throughout it. And it wouldn't matter if it was Eggers. If anybody put that amount of care into a product, I think it's going to show. So yeah, it was definitely, you could just, it was very evident on screen that there was a care and passion for this movie, and it was in
Yeah.
all technical aspects, it was perfect for me. I absolutely loved it. But that's a good segue, I guess, into our scores. But I'll let you kick us off what you felt about it. How would you
Yeah.
rate?
I think based on just like, and this could change because I was just excited when I saw it, and I was pretty impressed with everything I saw. I would
Mhm.
perfect score it right now. Um, and I feel like a lot of people have done that who really enjoyed it. I've done it. I was like looking at other letterbox. So there were some other people that like were talking about how boring it was and gave it 2 stars, and I'm sure they were like 15 years old. But
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I couldn't think of anything about it that like was lacking at all. Um,
a good
no,
way to put it.
there was nothing lacking about it at all. I loved like I loved the performances, loved the way it looked. I mean, it was really a really effective movie in every facet of its storytelling and how it's put together.
Mhm.
And I thought it was interesting too because like it made me want to check out other, not just vampire movies, but particular ones. Like I recently had watched Bram Stoker's Dracula for Tales of Horror, and I was like immersed in how beautiful that movie was. And that movie came out in the early '90s, and like it's like
Yeah.
it. I mean, I know like it's. I think some of that views on that are mixed, like as far as Francis Ford Coppola's work, but like
Yep.
I want to look at it again based on like what I was seeing with that. Checking out movies like Interview with the Vampire, like all like how they kind of like tackle that kind of like period look and stuff, and see
Yep.
how they stack up. And I sadly have never seen the original Nosferatu. So
Me
I
either.
so I can't really compare to that, but I would like to check that out. But it made me more want to see like similar films like this. I mean, and see how
Mhm.
they kind of, again, a lot of those movies were released years ago, so it might be hard to really like properly fairly compare them a bit, but like
Yeah.
it did make me want to like kind of go back and see like how their execution was compared to this.
Have you seen Herzog's version?
I've seen snippets of it. I've seen
Oh,
nothing at all.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, have you?
They are very different, and it's funny. I had this discussion with a buddy of mine on Letterbox. It's funny his review on Letterbox of Eggers' version was like he called me out because I have both Robert Eggers and Werner Herzog's as like perfect scored, and so he challenged me to like answer how I can like give them both that score, and so I kind of like jokingly responded with like a little mini essay about what I liked about both and like what I appreciated the differences. And but I really recommend Werner Herzog's. It is very different. It is, if you
Yeah.
think Eggers is like atmospheric and moody, I dare to say that Werner Herzog's is even more so,
Yeah.
and also shot really well. Some really cool camera work. Obviously, it's like 45 years older, but um, both immaculate for just different ways. But check it out sometime next time you're in the mood for a vampire movie. And it is like even more of a slow burn, but it is,
Yeah.
yeah, really worth checking out. But I really like both, and so that's my rating for Eggers. I also perfect scored it. I've seen it the second time now, and nothing really changed. If not like just my appreciation for the movie. Like I was able to spend more time being invested in different scenes now that I kind of knew what I was expecting. But
Becoming.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was fantastic in all ways, and I can't wait for his next movie. Honestly, I hope he pumps them out as quick as he did this after the Northman, because that was only a 2 year turnover,
Yeah, going
which
to
is
it. Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah,
Yeah. I was impressed with
so
that. Yeah.
I hope he gets to work soon because yeah, he's
Yeah,
great.
I actually saw and read your review. Like, I'm always surprised. I don't know if you think when you're writing stuff, like you think you're writing it well, but like the way you convey your thoughts on like how you feel about the movie, I'm like, why is he not doing this?
Well,
I know
thanks.
you're
I
like
get kind of
that's
self
fun for you.
conscious when I do it, and sometimes I'll write stuff and I'll delete it because I'm like, okay, like who cares? Like, but then
Yeah,
I'm like, fuck it, like this is my thoughts about a movie. Like, what do I care if I'm just putting it out there? So sometimes I'll just put a little blurb because I'm like self conscious, or sometimes I'll really let loose and just give my honest
yeah.
thoughts and try to sound like I know what I'm talking about because I never really know. But I appreciate that.
I mean, like it seemed like there really are your initial just excited thoughts about the movie. Like you're like, you are passionate about what you've seen, and like you can
Yeah.
tell. So like, yeah, and
Well, thanks.
it's
Because I
not,
was, yeah,
and it's also not like like studio, like it's not very like upper lip, like no, like
Yeah.
you should like this because it really.
Sometimes I
becomes, like,
feel
really-
like it might get conveyed that way, but it's obviously it's not how I feel. It's anyway. I get too wrapped up in like how other people are going to perceive sometimes what I say or do, and it's kind of ridiculous, and I got to talk myself out of it. But thank you. Yeah, it was fun to write about something when you're really passionate. Same with The Substance. After I watched that the other day, I had to run.
Yeah, I
and
read a
jump
review of
on
that too.
review.
I was like,
Yeah.
I've been waiting to like find out what you thought about that, and I know we might talk about that a little bit with the.
I hope we
the
do because that was great.
Yeah.
Well, that
Everyone's
made a certain list that I'm sure we're going to chat about soon. So I know that
yeah.
we'll spend some time talking about it.
Yeah, that movie is so bonkers in the best way possible, but
Yeah.
also really fucking smart. It's not just like some kind of throwaway horror movie. Like it has layers, and that's why I really loved about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we wrap up, I thought it was interesting. Harry Styles was supposed to play Nicholas Holt's part originally. He was like cast and then he dropped out.
Who's
I'm trying to Nicholas Holt's.
Oh, Nicholas Hoult. Really?
And I was like,
okay.
I'm trying to imagine that. I'm glad it worked out.
What? Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't know that part.
I don't have anything against Harry Styles as an actor per se. I don't think he's like great. I don't think he's like bad. I guess it's both like not really seen Don't Worry Darling, and like I don't know if that was a him problem or a script problem. So like I won't blame that on.
For sure. I think part of it's the script. I didn't love him in it, but
yeah. And I guess since Eggers had been in development on this since 2015. At one point, he wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to be to be Arlington said, and he also considered Mads.
Man.
He also considered Mads Mikkelsen as well. I mean, all those
are both
very inspired choices. And I actually was like, when I saw that, I was like, I wouldn't be upset with either one of those. But I mean, he killed it. But like,
obviously, I think he nailed it. But honestly, now the thought of Mads Mikkelsen as Count Orlok, oh my god, that would be incredible. He would nail that. Obviously, like it's not even like really fun to picture Daniel Day-Lewis in a role. It would just kind of be like child's play, I think, for him. Like he would just nail something like that. It would be cool to see. But Mads Mikkelsen as a vampire, that is something I hope we get. I love that guy.
Yeah. Like, all right, we're putting it out there. Someone hire him as
very, very neat. I don't know, production history, I guess you could say. And I'm glad they settled on Bill Skarsgård. He nailed it. I'm sure his role in It and It Chapter 2 must have influenced that casting decision. And I hope he does more work like this in the future. I love Bill. He's got a handsome face and he's a talented guy, but some of his work, once you put on some prosthetic makeup on him, like it is incredible what he can do. So I hope he gets more stuff like that.
Agreed. I know we mentioned earlier about the movie's potential awards, if there isn't any potential. Most of the kind of critics, kind of awards like the critics give out that it's been receiving have been mostly nominations for cinematography, production design, costume design, makeup, and hairstyling. It seems like it's all technical. All would be worthy, I guess, but that seems like where it's most of its attention is laying right now, rather than the film itself or any of the performances at the moment.
Okay, interesting.
But I mean, I can see it, but those technical awards would be justified if they got some of them. But I don't know. It seemed like that kind of movie that they could have maybe. I don't know if they thought it didn't have awards potential. I think it seemed like it like I'm bringing up Bram Stoker's Dracula, that they did kind of push that. It didn't really get any big nominations, but it did win for costume design back in the day. So it reminds me of that. Like that could have been like the movie, like they pushed that way. But I guess it was Francis Ford Coppola, so that's maybe why they pushed that movie as a awards movie as well. But it seems like there was potential there. But I mean, that doesn't make the movie any less magnificent. So
exactly, this movie does not need awards to justify how good it is. But that being said, I do hope it gets recognized, and I would love to hear Robert Eggers Oscar winner or even Oscar nominee sometime in the near future, because the man, as far as critical acclaim, I do think he's underrated. I know that like the people that know him know how great his work is, and clearly studios still have faith in him after giving him $50 million to make this movie after a financial bomb.
Have a bomb, yeah. That's
so it's not that I wouldn't go to say he's underrated, but this guy should have some chrome on his mantle at home. He is one of the best in the game, and just for some reason, I guess he's put out some movies in some pretty tough years, like competition wise. So fair enough, I guess. But that guy, I still think he's going to go on to do a lot of great movies.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, nothing turns your fortunes around more than a hit. So even though he had a bomb before,
exactly.
Like, studios remember your last hit. So
yeah, exactly. And The Northman is also just a good movie that just didn't do well at the box office. It's not a bad movie by any means. And I think they know. I think studios realize that.
Yeah, and I think he certainly has like potential to get directing nomination somewhere down the line. He seems like
definitely.
It's around. It seems like it's around the corner from him.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hey, well, guys, I know I want to give Jackson a lot of credit because it's currently 10:50 p.m. in Los Angeles, or sorry, in the beach cities.
Yeah.
It's a way later than that over there, and
it's been a late night.
where he's out in Canada, but he's a trooper. Thank you so much for doing
all
this.
For the love of the game, my friend.
On the off day, on the Sunday, getting to talk about Nosferatu. Like we talked about this earlier, that we want to try to like start doing these kind of episodes a little bit more often for like newer releases. So you'll probably be seeing a little bit more of those as far as the newer elements of the show in the future. Because honestly, we are excited when we do see the same movie. Like, of course, we're not seeing them together, but we do let each other know that, like, hey, I saw this. Did you see it? Let's talk about it. So like that is going to be a part of the show moving forward.
Looking forward to covering those. Yeah, good start.
Yeah, definitely. And I really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. This is episode 218 of Back to the Blockbuster. We had the Talented Mr. Ripley come out last week, and that was with JC. What I'll say, I guess he's taking a break or shutting down work with the movies right now. We both follow him, and he's been on the show before. He had his reasons why he was kind of shutting it down. Like sometimes when you're putting that much effort into something and it feels like work, it's not as fun anymore. And like he is leaving the page up though for people that wanted to. He actually, if you do check it out, he has some very good write-ups, and maybe down the line he'll bring it back again.
I hope he does.
But I did want to mention that because he also gave me his phone number so we can actually use him as a guest if we really want to do that.
Oh, fantastic! So, okay,
just in
good.
Case he's not on, just in case he's not on his Instagram as much anymore. So, yeah, I mean, really good at it. I mean, I don't know. To me, he should be on like one of the websites I write for doing it. He's really good. And he certainly has a passion for movies, but hey,
I'm glad he's making a good choice for himself, and I have no doubt that if he chose to continue doing what he does, he'll find success in it. And I agree that's the right reason to step back from something. You don't want to do something for the wrong reason. So, but yeah, he's a good friend of the show, and JC and I go back to like early days before you and I even knew each other. We had a dialogue started, and he's a good friend. So if he's listening, JC, good for you, man. And I hope to have you on soon.
And I know he already has some bookmark anniversaries that he already told me about that he wants to do. So,
awesome.
He'll definitely be on the show again. But yeah, wanted to point that out. Not only is this episode, 218. It's the first episode of 2025. As we said, we're very excited for a brand new year Back to the Blockbuster, and we hope you are too. As always, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, GoodPods, wherever you get your podcasts. But also, you should check out the Playlist Studio app because they are great. They were very great. At the end of the year, they had a lot to do. Some of them didn't even take a break. So thank you so much for continuing to edit and make us sound and look good. And you can find that in the iOS store or Google Play Store, whichever device you have. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to do a lot more with that this year too. So even though there may be not a lot there right now, there will be a lot there soon. We have a lot of ideas that we're cooking up. We are so focused and so back, and Jackson, and you already know, is back full time again. So that's exciting, and we're looking forward to a very successful and exciting year of Back to the Blockbuster. So thank you for joining us on this first episode of the year. Jackson, thank you for staying up late. You're a trooper. I mean, I'm always surprised when you do it. It makes me admire your dedication even more. I don't know if I was on your end, I would still do it, but I would just be like, I think I'd be.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not
a little more
working in the
direct.
morning, so
There you
it's
go.
really no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
It's no biggie. Happy to do it.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing that for us, man, and thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. See you in the next one, guys.